Hey everybody, today is May 16th, so we'll be looking at May 15th MTG stocks, and you can see that we have quite a few price increases and some very high price increases, which is kind of weird, but it's alright. We're going to go over, the two we're going to go over today is Jeska, Warrior Adept, and Needle Specter. Then there are some higher ones, well, those are the two highest, but those are kind of the more interesting ones to me. So let's go ahead and just look at them cards. So the first card here, which is the Jeska Warrior Adept, is a two colorless red. Is a legendary creature, human barbarian, and I forgot to talk about the price here. The price is $1 to $8.34, so a pretty huge increase. So anyways, so Jeska is a legendary creature, human barbarian warrior. All right, it's a 3/1 first strike haste. Then it has tap. It deals 1 damage to any target. So when we look at this, I mean, 4 mana for a pinger with haste. Okay, not too great. The first strike 3/1's okay too. When you look at this, it's kind of like, all right, well, why? Why is this a thing? And basically, from what I could tell, from what I can gather, is that basically it's just kind of a buyout in general. This card hasn't been reprinted for many years, so it's just one of those cards that have a low stock, and since there's a low stock, people can buy it out pretty easily and drive up the price. The other thing is like this is supposed to be a planeswalker in the upcoming commander booster draft set, and there's also apparently it's a pretty infamous character, not infamous, famous. I don't know which one. I don't do enough with the lore, but one of those two, and basically she was pretty well known. Let's go with that. And people like her from that era of stories. And I guess the other kind of like tie-in that sort of helps here is we talked about this before, but Kelsey and the Plague, basically, this is kind of like the new Mardu Pinger, and basically it costs Mardu, so red, white, black. It's a 2/2 legendary creature, human assassin, vigilance, haste. Gets a +1/+1 counter for each experience counter you have, and you can tap it and deal 1 damage to target creature you don't control, and when it dies, you get an experience counter. So it kind of fits that theme of the Pinger deck. It's, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not a huge thing. I guess it's just because it's one of those kind of neat cards that were from the past. It's never been reprinted. It just kind of went up. So at least it's interesting. At least I like it. I like it, but I would never pay that much for it. That's for sure. So let's go and go to our second card here, which is the Needle Specter. Needle Specter is I almost did it again. Went from 291 to 1050. So yet again another huge price increase. This one costs 1 colorless, black. It is a creature Specter. It's a 1/1. It has flying, Wither, and Wither is the lesser evil of Infect. Let's go with that. So Wither, this deals damage to creatures in the form of -1/-1 counters. And then, so if you blocked with Needle Specter and it's only a 1/1, and they had a 2/2, you put a -1/-1 counter on that and be permanently a 1/1 until they either the creature dies or they get rid of the -1/-1 counter. The other thing here is when this card deals combat damage to a player, that player discards that many cards. So if you attack with the Needle Specter, he has 1 damage or 1 power, the person will discard 1 card. Now, from what I can see, is first off, it's an old card that hasn't been reprinted in a long time, so there's that. But I think kind of the other thing that really helped this was kind of the new mutate ability, and there's other mutate cards, but I want to kind of go over this one because it's interesting and works well with this card. I mean, I think any mutate card works well with the Needle Specter, but I think this one's least or talked about less, so I'm just going to go over it. I like the card anyways. So one mutate example is Snapdax Apex of the Hunt. This is a 1 colorless red, white, black, or Mardu. Is a legendary creature, dinosaur cat, nightmare. It's a 3/5 and has the mutate ability, and its mutate cost is 2 colorless, black or red, white. And so if we don't know what mutate does, I'll go over this slightly. If you cast a spell for a mutate cost, put it over or under a target non-human creature you can own, then mutate into the creature on top, plus all abilities from under it. So basically the idea here is that if you have Needle Specter out, and then you mutate Snapdax onto it, you put it on top of the Needle Specter, and now you have basically Needle Specter as a 3/5 flying, and whenever it deals damage, combat damage, that opponent discards that many cards. So you would put Snapdax on top just for the sheer fact that it's a 3/5. Now the other thing though is Snapdax has its own abilities, and it has double strike. So now you have a 3/5 flying double strike, and if you hit an opponent with it, you're going to make him discard 6 cards, which is kind of disgusting, and I don't like it. I honestly don't like it, but I understand why it's a good kind of like, especially with mutate doing really well, and it's like a neat interaction. But I would probably never play it just because ugh. But anyways, whenever this creature mutates, it deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls, and you gain 5 life. So this is actually a really cool interaction with Needle Specter because of Wither. So even if they had like a 5/5 or something, that way the Wither still goes off, and you can deal 4 damage to a 5/5, and it becomes a 1/1. So the creature would still survive, but at least it's a lot weaker. Of course, you could also just deal 4 damage to a creature and kill it if it has 4 or less toughness. But I like the idea of that. I guess the other thing is that it would kill Indestructible, because Indestructible will still take damage. You do 4 damage to it, and you put in the form of Wither counters. Because I guess the reason why this works says Wither, this deals damage to creatures in the form of -1/-1. It doesn't say specifically combat damage. So, it also says whenever this creature mutates, it deals 4 damage. So since it has Wither and it deals damage, blah, blah, blah. If I'm incorrect on that, let me know, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So, like I said, if they have a indestructible creature that has 4 toughness, you can kill it off that way. Because it would get -4/-4, and at that point in time, it have 0 toughness, and because of state-based effects, I believe, it would die, and that's probably too long of an explanation, but that's fine. That's what we do here. But yeah, I like that interaction. It's if your play group is totally cool with discarding a whole bunch of cards and stuff like that, I think Needle Specter is completely fine. Our play group doesn't do that much, so that's why I would stray away from it. But if your group is fine with it, do it. Amazing. I love it. But anyways, let's go and go to our commander of the night, which this is Melek. Is it Paragon? So this isn't really a new commander from the Commander 2020 set, but I haven't seen it before, and I like it. And it's technically reprinted Commander 2020, so I'm going to go with it instead of doing like a newer commander. So Melek, is it Paragon, is a 4 colorless, blue-red, legendary creature, weird wizard, which is weird. Ha ha ha. Anyways, and it has 2 power and 4 toughness. Its abilities here: play with the top card of your library revealed. You see that you're in Is It. Usually in Is It, you're going to want to play a lot of spells anyways. You want to be careful with counter spells in this deck because people know that you have it on top of your deck, but that can also be a way for people not to play stuff, and it's kind of like one of those things where you can go either way. I think you could go with a really control-y deck, or you can do something else, and we'll talk about that soon here. But let's go ahead and read on. So basically, play the top card of your library revealed. You may cast instant and sorcery spell from the top of your library. So if it's an instant spell or a sorcery spell, you can play it. So if you played an instant sorcery or instant spell from the top of your library, and the next card's a sorcery, you can technically play that as well. Still have to pay the mana cost, but it's sort of like drawing a card, sort of. It's card advantage to some degree, at least. But its other ability, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell from your library, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. So I really like this part of it as well. I mean, that's kind of the whole reason why Melek is kind of why you'd probably play Melek, because just having a sort of card advantage is whatever, but having the copy effect is really cool. So there's a lot of things you can do with this. Like I said, you can go for a more control-y route, but what I want to kind of introduced with this deck, and if I might make this deck soon. I don't know. I think it'd be cool to go for more of a aggro slash token deck. So one of the cards I want to talk about here is Force of Rage. So Force of Rage is a one colorless red instant. And if it's not your turn, you may exile a red card from your hand rather than pay this spell's mana cost. So that's pretty nice. You can either do it for free if you're in danger. Let's go and talk about the rest. Create 2/3/1 red elemental creature tokens with trample and haste. Sacrifice those tokens at the beginning of your next upkeep. So basically, there's two things you can do with this, especially with Melek. This is on top of your library. You can, on your turn, you can be like, hey, I'm going to pay 3 mana. I'm going to bring out 2/3/1s, but then also, because of Melek, I'm going to copy it and make 2 more 3/1s. So you're coming in with 12 damage, haste, and trample. So I mean, that could be pretty devastating. That's, that could potentially kill a player or do a lot of damage. And that's always good. Damage good, especially token decks and stuff. The other kind of cool thing is that if it's not your turn and you're in a more you're on the defense, and someone is attacking with a bunch of creatures, you can then make 4 creatures for basically free by just exiling a red card, and then now you have 4 blockers. So I think both cases are really cool, and I think with Melek it works really well. So I just like this card a lot for at least Melek. I don't know how well it would do in other cases, but having it copied, making a bunch of it's a neat card. I like the effect of it. And that's not we've talked about like the whole synergy card thing, so that is kind of a synergy card. And the other synergy card I want to talk about is called Forbidden Friendship, and I want to bring this up only because this is part of the new Ikoria set, and I think I just want to talk about some Ikoria cards. So Forbidden Friendship is a 1 colorless red sorcery, and you can create a 1/1 red dinosaur creature token with haste and a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. So I think this is also one of those things where, if you have Melek out and Forbidden Friendship is on top of your deck, you're making 4 1/1s, which is still pretty good. 2 of them will have haste, so it's just one of those things where this would be really good for a token deck, and there's a lot of other ways to make tokens with sorceries and stuff, and so that's why I kind of like the idea of Melek getting a bunch of tokens and copying those sorceries and stuff, and then with all these kind of low costing creature token generators or creature token sorceries or instants or whatever, this allows you to not be overwhelmed early game, and that way you can have more value spells in your deck and then play them later. Maybe put them on top of your deck with other effects, copy them, and etc. So I think that's a cool idea to make a aggro Melek instead of a more control. I'm sure both are good in their own ways, but yeah, I just want to highlight. I know Forbidden Friendship is probably not on anybody's list to talk about, but I do also like the whole idea because this pair, the human and dinosaur, there's a few other cards that they're in, and I like that they kind of like have a story in the artwork and stuff. And Magic does that from time to time, so I do like that. I like that too. So good artwork, good everything. So it's gonna be kind of it for that. So that means we'll go ahead and look at a couple of random cards as always. So random card numero uno is Golgari Grave Troll. I feel like we talked about this before, but that's fine. Golgari Grave Troll is a 4 colorless green creature troll skeleton. Not actually realized it's a troll, but I guess that really makes sense because it's literally in his name. Good job, me. And she's back. So this is for dredge decks. I love dredge decks, so this is kind of one of my staple cards I like putting in anything. When he enters the battlefield, or he enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each creature card in your graveyard. So, if you have 10 creatures, he comes into play with +1 or 10 +1/+1 counters. Not bad. 1 colorless, remove a +1/+1 counter from Golgari Grave Troll. You can regenerate it. So basically this allows you to kind of make him a huge blocker in the sense of, you only have to pay 1 and regenerate him, and then you just keep regenerating him and keep blocking if you need to. But the big thing about Golgari Grave Troll is that you have Dredge 6. And Dredge 6, if you would draw a card, instead you may put exactly 6 cards from the top of your library into your graveyard. If you do, return this card from your graveyard to your hand, otherwise draw a card. So the idea is that, if you're on your draw step, or if you have a spell or ability that allows you to draw a card, you can then instead say, oh, he's in my graveyard, I'm going to go ahead and just take the top 6 cards of my library, put it into my graveyard, and then put him back into my hand. And so you're going to want to try and keep recycling that ability, because generally in graveyard decks, you're going to put some really good stuff in your graveyard, you're going to have synergy with it, and blah, blah, blah. I guess kind of as a example would be really good for a dredge deck like this. Well, Golgari Grave Troll in general is good. He does have, like, a lot of damage technically. One card I really like to put in my decks is Lord of Extinction. Lord of Extinction is basically... I'm just going to go look it up here. Boop, boop. Lord of Extinction is a 3 colorless black-green creature elemental, and its power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in all graveyards. So now, Golgari Grave Troll is only creatures. Lord of Extinction is all graveyards and all cards. So, let's say by the time you get Lord of Extinction, everybody has at least 5 cards in their graveyard. So there's 15. And then let's say if you're a dredge deck, you put 40 cards in your graveyard. Now you have, 55 on the battlefield. And then you just kill everybody. You can do something like one of my favorite cards I talk about a lot is Chandra's Ignition. Chandra's Ignition allows you to basically target one of your creatures, and then it deals damage equal to its power to each other creature and each opponent. So basically, you just wipe out everybody with a 2-card combo, sorta. I mean, 10 mana is a lot, generally, sorta. But that's one way to do it, and I like Chandra's Ignition too much, and I talk about it too much, but I love it. Yeah, so Golgari Grave Troll, good. It's a good card. All right. Let's go and go to our second random card of the night. Yamabushi Storm. All right, Kamigawa. I didn't even look at the symbol or anything. I was like, this is probably Kamigawa. So Yamabushi Storm is a 1 colorless red sorcery. It deals 1 damage to each creature. If a creature dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile it instead. Not a big deal. It's good for anti-tokens. If your meta has a lot of tokens, I think Yamabushi could be really good. Yeah, I mean, the exile effect is kind of whatever to tokens, especially. I don't know. You could maybe reduce everybody's toughness by a lot somehow, and then deal 1 damage and kill them all and exile them. But there's probably better stuff out there. Cool card though. I like artwork wise. I like it. It's kind of I like the old Kamigawa stuff. I'm a Kamigawa fan. So, anyways, hope you all enjoyed. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.